What's going on, guys? My name is Orphid. How are you? At the time of watching this video, I hope you guys are doing well, staying safe, and enjoying your day to the fullest. As you can probably see by the title of the video, we are going to be talking about next generation games and if they should be priority straight out of the gate, and the fear of alienating users who are still on the previous generation. So the importance of a generation jump. We're going to get right into it. And for any information pertaining to this video, I will link articles down in the description so you can go check those out for yourself so you can be informed as I am. So to start, again, the importance of a generation jump. The purpose of a generation jump is to show off the power of a new console and what it can do over the previous generation and all the tech and hardware advancements that, we've made between that time. So if you're on a platform and you're used to the experience the games provided over that course of, say 6-7 years, in most cases towards the end of it, you're going to be itching for something new. You're right. You're going to want to see something new and shiny, and that's what the next generation of consoles is there to offer. So you want to get to that point once they're in your hands as soon as possible, ideally. In my opinion, I believe cross-gen games need to stop as soon as possible. So what I mean by that is the games you get that come out on the tail end of the generation usually bleed over into the next gen. So there will be a version available for both, with higher textures, higher resolutions, more frame rate, stuff like that. And that's fine for those first initial games that come out, but I don't want to see that period get stretched for, say more than a year at most, because, going into the article and what they're talking about, the whole point of the next gen machines is to kind of, flex that power right out of the gate, and that's something offered to you by dropping the money to be, an early adopter of these more powerful systems. So in my opinion, I agree that, you want PS5 experience games right away, as soon as you can get them. So I'm 100% on board with that. Sony says they're dedicated to providing next-gen games ASAP. In the article, they state that developers do have the option to make PS5 games that don't have to run on the PlayStation 4. Now, before, in the previous gens, they were probably being told that, the game has to run on the previous gen as well, again, for fear of alienating users. When you come off a console generation, that's where your biggest install base is, because that's where most of the units are. Early adoption starts out kind of slow. The consoles are usually limited with production, and a lot of people aren't really willing to drop that large amount of money on a new console right away. So, again, feeding into the fact that the people who do drop that money, they should be ready and waiting to experience the new games that are only possible on that console. That's the reason you go out and you drop that money to get it right away. Why would you do that and you're still being offered experiences from the previous gen? That's the whole point of moving to a new generation, because you've seen what it has to offer and you want something new. Once again, I completely agree. That's the reason why I buy these consoles. I want that experience as soon as possible, man. Not a second too late. So also, in another of the articles that I'm going to link, there is a mandate for PlayStation 4 games submitted for certification after the date of July 13th. And again, this applies to games submitted, not released. So once the date of July 13th comes, if you submit a game to Sony to be put on the PlayStation 4 platform, you have to make sure that the code is able to be ran on PlayStation 5. It needs to run the exact same way that it runs on the PlayStation 4, or you won't be able to put the game on the platform. And once again, this doesn't include games that are released after July 13th. So if you submit it for them before then you're good. More than likely, Ghost of Tsushima and Last of Us 2, they will run on the next gen machine, because those are first party games created by first party studios that Sony owns. So of course they're probably gonna, be the exception here, but In most cases, that's how it's going to work. So again, just kind of like making sure there's that barrier where, if you do upgrade, obviously you still have all the options of the previous gen, because backwards compatibility is important to a lot of fans, rightly so, but there isn't that pressure to make the PlayStation 5 game and make it be able to run on the previous gen. See what I mean? So you get the option to have those games earlier, and you also still get to play those PS4 games on it, which is exactly what you want, out of an expensive new machine. As I stated in my previous point, I do believe it's perfectly reasonable for those, first handful of games that are being released at the end of the generation and, that we're probably getting ready to wrap up development to be cross-gen games. I understand that 100%. But again, I believe it should not last for too long, especially with Sony and Microsoft working with developers actively to make these new machines more accessible to them and to get them up and running. And they have this phrase known as time to triangle, which is basically the time it takes for the developers to be able to create, a triangle polygon in these new games engines. So the faster you get to do that, the faster you get to get games up and running and, get to the development process. So I believe that is where they should have their time spent and not worrying about, the last gen versions of games and just bringing them over to PlayStation 5. So I'm thankful that Sony understands that and is willing to deliver that experience, to the customers who want that upgrade, who want to jump in right away. If you want a better experience, upgrade. It's a choice at the end of the day. No one's forcing you to stay on the PlayStation 4. No one's forcing you to buy PlayStation 5. But what you have to understand is that there is a reason to adopt a premium console, earlier, to experience those games earlier. You're free to upgrade at your leisure. You can wait a year, you can wait 2 years. You can get the console right away and, not really have many games to play. It's all up to you. But when you finally get those games, you expect them to be new experiences. And for the most part, it's unrealistic considering that the developers still have to keep previous generation consoles in mind. So for the fans that are mad that, essentially they want equality and they want to be able to still stay on their PlayStation 4 while getting, the same games people from the next generation are getting, I don't think that's realistic, man. If you want that same experience, you have to upgrade. And a lot of people will eventually, but it's all up to you at the end of the day. So I appreciate you guys watching the video. What are your thoughts on the next generation consoles? Is that something you plan to do? Upgrade right out of the gate? Are you going to wait to see if, more games drop or if there's any kinks with the systems and their software and such? Wait to see if those get ironed out. What are your opinions? Please leave comments. I love reading you guys' comments. I appreciate them so much. Also, I did hit 50 subscribers recently, which it feels fucking awesome. I was one away for like a couple of days, and then I got one more, and just seeing that 50 number, it's awesome, man. I cannot express the feeling. So thank you guys so much. So once again, I appreciate you watching and listening with me. You guys have a good one, and until next time.